In the previous video I made about this subject, I pointed out that the Zoomers are having normalcy stolen from them by perverse millennials who are obsessed with making them queer, trans, or socially isolated. It is not easy coming into a world where the generations before you have debauched your genuine interests so greatly that your paradigm is completely back to front against your actual interests in being a normal human being. It begins by totally realigning your worldview as to what is good and what is bad. The millennials have this bizarro view because they think the ultimate expression of humanity is what they term freedom. However, it's a specific kind of freedom that is actually quite new and doesn't make a huge amount of sense. Historically, freedom meant the freedom of a people to be self-determining. The term a people means an ethnos. An ethnos is a group of people who hold a distinctive culture through heredity and are bound together by a shared story. I am specifically not talking about race. Simply having the same skin colour means nothing in actuality and creates no ties that bond people together. Falling into an abstract category does nothing to describe or create or foster social bonds between communities. And so it's a social evil that this has become the focus of contemporary political activism. We might be able to call this community built around a shared story a tribe, and through this definition, we suddenly see why foreigners, like myself, don't make particular distinctions between white and black Americans, and why we view recent Mexican immigrants to America as foreigners who are living in your country. The Mexicans don't have the same shared story as the Africans and the Europeans. They don't speak the same language, they don't have the same Protestant values, or inherit the same cultural and institutional traditions. The story of European and African people in the United States is intertwined in a way that I don't feel is separable, for good or for ill, and together, both races of people make up an ethnos that foreigners can recognize. You are Americans whether you like it or not. The American tribe is not simply white or black, but contains both racial components. This tribal view is based on intrinsic cultural habits that form the normalcy of your behaviour. Put simply, Americans know what other Americans are like because you've lived among Americans your whole lives. If you look back through history, you'll find many different ethnic revolutions of tribes who seek to throw off the yoke of overlordship from whatever empire currently controls them. This is what was originally meant by the concept of freedom, the freedom to be self-governing and not be exploited by a foreign people. The modern concept of freedom is different from this because it has been reframed to mean the prospect of being a self-governing individual. One has to govern one's own actions instead of socially prescribed rules to do it for them. However, these social prescriptions existed for a reason. If you wish to enter into a certain state of affairs, one has to behave in a certain way. If you wish to be part of a community, you have to be accepted by the community, which is why we have rules for what normal behaviours are recognised by that community. For the French school of Enlightenment thought, this, of course, makes society itself the oppressive force from which the individual must be liberated. But liberated into what exactly? The freedom to exist outside of not only our societies, but eventually the confines of our own bodies. This is what the abortion activists are constantly railing against when they repeat the mantra, her body, her choice, in the face of counter-arguments such as, perhaps it's immoral to murder a baby after it's actually been born? The progressives are attempting to suggest that the will of the mother and her right to choose is more important than the life of the baby that she carries, and she is being oppressed by her own reproductive system. In a paradigm that believes in the freedom of the will above all else, then this makes sense. However, the will is not truly free in the sense that they imagine it to be. It is confined within the body and has the pressures of nature that have been put upon it. If one were to be liberated from social pressures that come in the form of the opinions of others, then you would have the freedom to choose, but you do not have the freedom to be free of the intrinsic pressures that influence your choices, such as the demands placed upon you by your body. It may seem then like the next logical step is say, well, we need to free the will from the limits of the body, but even if we could do that, to what end? Were we able to free the mind from the body, what do you think your mind would even want to do with this freedom? The desires you have are a product of your body. Without these operating on you, you would not have the inclinations you do now, and it is unclear where you would find the inclinations towards any activity from. Freedom to do anything would end up being the desire to do nothing. The impositions of nature and society are not obligations you accrue without reason. They are not shameful or base, and they are your path towards nobility and happiness. The way you have been made determines the roles you can fulfill, and this provides your life with meaning and purpose, so that when you have succeeded in your chosen role, you will feel satisfied with who you are and what you have done. Others around you will appreciate and admire the things you do that makes their lives easier, and in turn they will make your life easier. Being a strong, independent person is also to be a loner, who nobody can rely upon in a crisis and has no real love of other people. It is to be self-concerned above all things and lost in one's own personal struggles with the world. And it sounds like a lot of work when you could be living harmoniously with people who love you. Coming to terms with that which you are is the first and most important step in maturing into an adult. Raging against nature for making you male or female when you desire to be the opposite sex is a futile path that will not bring you fulfillment. Whether you like it or not, there is a telos embedded in you from the moment you are born, and you don't actually have the power to simply choose otherwise. However, you do have the power to choose how you self-actualize this purpose. You can't be anything you want, but within the biologically prescribed boundaries that nature has set for you, you do have plenty of options to break new ground and find accomplishments. Instead of attempting to overthrow the game, you need to learn how the game is played. In this way, you will be the biggest success that you can be and much more likely to find happiness. Put simply, you need to accept your own limitations and recognize that boundaries are not evil, they are good. Moreover, the need to attempt to impose your will onto others and make them conform to your comfort evaporates as soon as you realize that these oppressive stereotypes actually make life a lot easier for everyone, you included. Humans come in archetypes. A weedy guy with narrow shoulders probably won't become a powerlifter. A dumpy woman will likely not become prom queen. I could go on, but you get the point. Being satisfied with your station in life is the key to happiness, and forever struggling against these constraints is simply an upward slog against your own nature. When you have found your groove and work within it, you can pursue excellence in your field. Find that which you want and for whatever reason, work hard on it. If you're lucky and with enough work, you'll be able to make a career of it, and then you'll never have to work a day in your life. You won't wake up in the morning despising the day ahead, and you'll be excited to see what it is that you'll accomplish. Now that you aren't raging against the nature of what it is to be a human, the world does not look as monumental as it appears to those who are. You don't need to overthrow systems of oppression or any other such nonsense. You have small and achievable goals that are right in front of you. A mountain is conquered one step at a time, and each step is not intimidating because it's only a small distance from where you are already. And now that we have realigned our view and accepted that we are part of a tribe, and that we want and need to be around other people, and that our world is not intrinsically evil, what is the first concrete action for Zoomers on the path to saving themselves to take? What is the first step on this new path? I'm not sure, but I think it probably begins with this. When you leave the house today, leave your mobile phone at home. I realise this probably sounds heretical, but leave it at home when you leave the house and let me know what happens when you return. It's only a small step, and I think it'll be good for you.